So I'm here with Tom DiNapoli, the Comptroller of the New York State Common Retirement Fund. Hello, welcome.
Nice to see you again.
You too. And we're here to talk about the Investor Summit on Climate Risk organised by the UN and Ceres. And after COP21, there's been a lot more certainty that the world is definitely moving to a low carbon economy, and that's come out today as well from the host of speakers. How, as an investor, are you engaging with this, and where do you see opportunities in this new transition?
Well, I think COP21 and the agreement that came out of Paris was very, very important because it really made clear that there is a coming together across the globe. It sends a strong signal both in terms of how governments are going to approach the issue from a regulatory point of view, and I think that underscores the need for companies to respond to this challenge, to respond to this issue. So from my point of view as a trustee of a pension fund and as an investor, it creates more certainty in the marketplace. Mm-hmm. Because I do think that while government actions and regulatory actions are important, at the end of the day, having the markets respond to this challenge becomes very, very key. So knowing that there will be more opportunities, more products available for us to invest in.
Yep.
And now when we engage with companies, when we say to them, how are you assessing the risk of climate, and what is your carbon footprint, and how do you deal with the issue of greenhouse gas emissions, they can respond to our inquiries with the understanding with the framework that we all have to operate within as we move forward. So I think that it changes the playing field in many ways and will create more opportunities for us as investors, and I think that's going to be a good thing from an investment perspective.
Yeah, and you're already kind of looking at this space. I mean, you've got this new 2 billion low carbon index.
Yeah, we've had a number of what you might call green or sustainable investments over a long period of time. Yeah. Because the fund has always felt that's the right thing to do. It's part of that strategy of trying to achieve a double bottom line, making money for the fund, but doing something good as well. And we know now, for the health of the planet and for the health of the human population, we need to deal with this issue. I did have the chance, as you know, to be in Paris, and I announced that we were going to set up this low emission index, where we gain the efficiency of investing through an index fund. We're going to track the Russell 1000, which is our largest index fund. But we were going to do something a little different. We were going to exclude coal companies from that index fund, and we were going to weight where we put our money based on the track record of the companies in terms of how they deal with the emissions issue. So just this month, we have moved $2 billion into the fund. So we not only announced it, but we actually have done it. So it's really only a few weeks old, but so far it seems to be performing as we expected. What I hope to be able to do, because an index fund, it's easily scalable, we can put more money into it. So I'm hoping that over time we can move more of our public equity investments into this fund. And another important part of this is that those companies in our portfolio who we identify as poor performers in this area, we're going to step up our corporate engagement in terms of communicating with them, perhaps shareholder resolutions, and maybe ultimately make some different decisions about where we put our money. So we view it as a way to incentivize the better corporate performers on the issue of climate.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you've already invested the whole 2 billion so quickly, and leading on to that, are there enough opportunities for investors who want to invest in low carbon opportunities at the moment?
Well, that's one of the things that's attractive about the index, because it parallels an existing index, but it has a slightly different slant or focus. What we also have decided to do is increase our investments across all asset classes in our portfolio in what we might call green or sustainable investing. So a number of years ago, we had set a target of $500 million for these kinds of investments, and we found that we actually were up to about $1.5 billion. Well, what we decided to do, in addition to the index, is that we were going to double our investments in private equity, in real estate, and opportunistic in these other green and climate sensitive investments. So another 1.5 billion, so it's 3 billion in those investments, $2 billion in the index fund brings the total to $5 billion. When we started this a number of years ago, it was hard to find opportunities, quality opportunities, because again, we need to make money for the fund. We have to always keep the fiduciary responsibility in mind. We have 1 million men and women who depend on that pension fund for the retirement security. What we're finding now, and I think it's just going to accelerate as a follow-up to the Paris Agreement, is that more opportunities are presenting themselves to us. So, the whole area of renewable energy opportunities and new technologies, clean tech and so on. So I think it's going to be easier for us to find those opportunities, both for opportunities to invest within New York State, within the US, and certainly globally. And I think that's going to provide us with some really exciting opportunities that we're going to embrace.
Yeah, and kind of touching on kind of global opportunities, we had representation from China and India today, who are having a massive overhaul of their energy system.
And that's where the population is and the growing economies are. I found that panel to be very interesting because I don't profess to be an expert on China or India. Well, I've been to China twice over the years. But they are such important players in terms of this issue and in terms of the global economy. We heard from one of the other presentations that China seems to have the most in terms of investment capital right now in this space. So obviously Paris couldn't happen, and the follow-up from Paris would not work if China was not a part of the equation particularly. But India for that matter as well. We heard some of the discussion about how many Indian families don't have electricity and how coal is still an important part of the dynamic in India. So whereas in the U.S. the movement is very much away from coal, and coal companies are very much on the downside. In India, you have a slightly different dynamic, but the need for us to work with the Indian government and with companies that have a role to play in India to hopefully get them to move away from coal and carbon that comes with coal and towards the renewables. If we can make that happen, I think that opens up a frontier of opportunity for investment. And so if we can match our capital with great investment opportunities there, and of course, not only deal with the climate issue, but deal with the issue of a place like India. It's a developing economy, a lot of people in poverty. So if we get this right and do it the right way, you'll have a growing middle class in India and certainly a healthier population, which is very important to all of us as well.
Sure, yeah. And another interesting speaker this morning was the former Mayor of New York, Michael Bloomberg, who is going to head up a very interesting new task force on climate risk disclosure by corporates. Could you comment on that new group? It seems a lot of people are very excited about it.
Yeah, well, he's a very talented and gifted fellow. So the fact that someone of the leadership level of Michael Bloomberg is taking the lead on this, I think, is very important. For us as an investor to make a decision, disclosure is key. So if we don't know what the companies are doing, if they're not disclosing how they're assessing the risk, how they're measuring their carbon footprint, what is their emissions profile, then we can't make some more intelligent choices on where we're putting our money. So with all the risks that come with climate change, one of the fundamentals is disclosure. And more companies have been moving in this direction. Not all of them have been. So I think to have a more formalized strategy on how to inventory the disclosures that are there and encourage more corporate disclosures, I think is very, very smart, and certainly is an important part of the puzzle to follow through on the Paris Agreement. And I thought also Mike Bloomberg gave the perspective as a former mayor of this great city of New York, and pointing out that in many circumstances, the change is happening very much at the local level. It's in the cities, and it's the local government officials like the mayors who are able to effectuate changes that sometimes, at the national level, either because you have a weak national structure or, as seems to happen in the U.S. these days, you have gridlock, political gridlock, different opinions. So it's really at the local level. So I thought he brought a lot of valuable perspective in his presentation.
Yeah, that was a very interesting perspective, and kind of linked to that, this week, Governor Andrew Cuomo announced that the New York State Public Service Commission had approved a 10-year, $5 billion clean energy fund.
Yeah, the governor of New York has made very clear that New York is going to be on the cutting edge. We've had the regional greenhouse gas initiative with other states. He has set a very aggressive goal in terms of renewables to be the energy mix in New York, and now with this fund as well, he really is using the powers that he has as governor to move New York State in very much in concert with the direction that comes out of the Paris Agreement. And I think that does underscore, what the mayor had said, that we can't always wait for the national government to make the decisions and make the direction. The Public Service Commission in New York obviously is very key because it regulates the utilities in New York. So I think that was a welcome announcement.
Okay. Ban Ki-moon made a clarion call to investors to double their renewable investments by 2020, so to really accelerate the pace of this.
It's great, and that's where an organization like Ceres, and we have to give credit to Mindy Luber and the Ceres team and the UN Foundation for organizing the summit. Ceres has been working on this issue for a very long time, and Mindy has been at all the conferences, at all the gatherings, and I think that, from the U.S. perspective, to have the leadership that Mindy and Ceres provides to bring together investors like New York and the other states that are represented through the Ceres network, but just as important, to have the investment partners, the corporate world, to have Mindy, talking with Brian Moynihan from Bank of America, the ability of Ceres to be a convener of capital and to help to really frame the discussion in the marketplace, I think is so key, because government in and of itself is not going to make the change here. The markets have to move in the right direction, and the investor network that Ceres has put together is so key to that movement in the marketplace. So this, I think, was a very important step in the evolution of Ceres' leadership on this issue as well.
Yes. Okay, well, thanks. It's very interesting.
Thank you.